and welcome to another episode of the podcast for the recently deceased. I'm Nate Roberts.
I am Rodney Godak. What's up, brother?
Oh, not too much, Rod. I had a stressful week. We were just kind of talking about it, and I hate stressful weeks. And what I love most about them is watching a good horror movie and just kind of, you know, letting go. You let go. You put all your pain and sorrow into the
hmm
victims and
Yeah, yeah, and suddenly your small worries and woes and concerns are
That's right.
less lighter and
Yes.
easier to carry because of the burdens that they have carried in your
Yes. And
stead.
I would
Yeah,
s-
that's
I would
the
s-
beauty of it.
yes, I would say though, unfortunately, in this case, um, this movie is just gut-wrenching. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't great. It wasn't bad. I'm gonna call it, average to good. But like, it tears at your soul the whole way through. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so, before we get started, for anyone who's new to the podcast, we do quick little reviews, give you our score that are
Mhm.
spoiler free, and then we let the spoiling begin and go into a deeper dive discussion. And today we'll be doing Speak No Evil, written and directed by Christian Teftrup, who has a long career in TV and film in, I believe, Danish and/or Dutch cinema, as they call it. Um, and today, Rod is going to kick it off with his review of Speak No Evil.
All right, here we go. Where are all the good men dead? In the heart or in the head? Christian Taftrup's third feature length directorial film, co-written with his brother Mads, taking Shudder by storm of sorts. Led by the very strong performances of his casts, this cautionary tale begins unassumingly as we follow a Danish family visiting a newly befriended couple in their Dutch home. Social transgressions and misgivings begin to dismantle the holiday retreat as intention and interpretation weave a web of dread that blankets the viewer in discomfort. And thus, a choice is given. As a viewer, your experience of the film will depend upon your willingness to watch with your brain or with your heart. With your brain, the experience of the film will be filled with eye rolls and maybe even shouting at the screen, pleading with our protagonists to advocate for themselves, even in the slightest bit, questioning every decision and injecting your own I would have into every scenario. The conclusion will lead you to preposterous heights of unsatisfaction upon the film's end. However, with your heart, you'll be lulled into a menace of a film that oozes with unsettling interactions, filling you with despair as you wonder what could have been had only our leads done something different. You'll rationalize the why of every decision and understand what leads them to their fate. And while you will not feel good about it, and you will not feel good about it, but you will accept it as the emotional wreckage lays strewn about you. Speak No Evil is a wonderfully made film that benefits from its foreignness, aiding to the peculiarity of the situations it presents. Artfully told, albeit unrealistic, the viewers with more willingness to experience something are better off, while the cynics restrict their enjoyment and leave empty handed.
All right. Yeah, excellently put. You want to give your number?
I rate Speak No Evil a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
For me, the overall potential enjoyment that can be there can outweigh the pitfalls of taking it too literally and injecting yourself of how you would feel or you would be in this situation.
All right. Well, that's great. I'm so glad you watched the movie with your heart because I watched it with my head. All right. I didn't write anything nice, so I'm gonna kind of go off the cuff here. Um, So I would definitely say this movie was a thriller. It was very good, beautifully shot, incredibly acted. Once again, you never know if that's just because it's a foreign film. Except I think in this case, because they're mostly speaking English. They do
hmm
go through a couple different languages, and sometimes it's subtitled, sometimes it's not. Once
Right.
again, when it's not, they're speaking a language that the protagonists don't speak, so that's kind of fun. It leaves the viewer in the dark. Um, I would say that yes, they make some unbelievable choices. You could even call some moments of this film cringeworthy, where these people are just unrealistically making decisions um, to tell the story. So it's purposeful, and the story is impacting, and the conclusion, although once again also kind of ridiculous, like it makes sense, and it is a great ending to the story. Um, but it is very hard to believe. Maybe just because we're American, I don't know. I just couldn't get into the shoes of the protagonists as much as I enjoyed the ride. Um, that being said, I give Speak No Evil a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I was considering that you might have been left at a 5. I think that what it comes down to is, you know, as I was reflecting on it, it's sort of unfair to put this weight on it that it has to be so believable in a way,
Right.
because, we don't do the same kind of thing with other films, like, fantasies
Hmm.
or science fiction,
Even
or
slashers.
right, like,
Even
yeah, we
slashers are
we
like,
yeah, like
why has
this
no
yeah,
one called the police yet?
yeah. Like, we let a lot of things go.
Yeah.
And I think with a film like this, part of our brain, it's nagging at us, and it's difficult to, because we think it would be different. And so for me, I think why I lean towards a 7 is that I think that the filmmaker is intentionally trying to be artful in sort of making like a fable of sorts, an allegory. Like, it's somewhat preposterous, but,
Yeah.
what if? And it's
Yeah.
this is just about the feelings, and this is what niceness gets you, or this is what not advocating or having no agency
Right.
in what happens to you does. And also the fear. I listened to a small interview. He's expressing, as a father, as a husband, um, if you're faced with evil, what would you actually do? Would you have the wherewithal or the courage or the gut to fight back in the way that you would need to
Right.
save yourself from that situation? And he was wrestling with that and wanted to kind of put it out there.
Sure.
So I feel much warmer about it even after watching it, and then reading a little bit more about how he felt and why he made what he did. So should we get into it then? Or do you have
Yeah.
anything else you want
It's
to put at the top?
no, I think we can move on. Let the spoiling begin. Um, we okay. So let's talk about the good first. Let's talk about the good.
Sure.
Um, so everybody does a great job in this movie.
Hmm.
Even the villain, the main villain, which we'll say is the husband. All
Yeah,
right, so we have our
Patrick.
Patrick. We have our protagonist couple and our antagonist couple. It's Bjorn and Luis and Patrick and Karen. And Patrick, when his mood swings are like a light switch, right? Like everybody's just having a good time, and then all of a sudden Patrick has this outburst of anger, and then he comes like right back to like it wasn't even like it was no thing. Um, and even when it is a thing, especially mainly for Louise, she comes in with, you know, his attitude is really bothering me. His behavior is really upsetting. And
Yeah,
so
he seems so measured with how he's interacting with them. Like, he knows he's in, like, it doesn't seem like he's losing his cool so much as he's intentionally coming to here and then going to here, or going over there or going over
yeah,
there. And it's so measured and intentful. It's very disturbing and off-putting, because, when you're in certain situations and you're talking a certain way, like, your blood pressure, and you're feeling this kind of thing, and it's hard to stay
yeah,
even with the way that you intend to be. There's like the facade breaks, and there's like a human moment where you're like gathering yourself to then do something. And with him, it's not there. It's this way and then this way, and it's just measured the whole time through. He's excellent at delivering that kind of uh,
yeah.
performance.
And Karen, her role in this is to be and stay playful through it all, right? we never see Karen even frown. She's even
No.
laughing and smiling when Patrick is you know showing a little bit of his madness. Um, and that's kind of her job. And when you think about it as being all being purposeful to manipulate Bjorn and Louise into um, this state where they are still somehow comfortable with these two. They met on a vacation, and now they're vacationing
Hmm.
at their home. And there's just enough bad to give them a little pause, but because he keeps coming back, and Karen is just so carefree about it, I think that is what is keeping them there, like through the whole thing. And also, like you said, it's kind of like a modern fairy tale in that it's saying, beware, this behavior. Beware, not the behavior of the antagonist. Beware this behavior in yourself.
Yeah.
Don't be appeasing. Don't be a people pleaser. Stand up for yourself. If you have an emotion, a feeling, don't swallow it for the sake of politeness, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because it made me think a lot about fight or flight, you know, and so the amygdala and the frontal lobe sort of have this thing where emotionally there's chemicals and things that are telling your body to fight or flight, and that happens historically, as a human race due to nature and beasts and everything hunting us down. So we needed to have that kind of thing that said, I can fight back and make this happen, or I need to flee the situation and to protect the species. Um, but now what's happened is that that response is triggered just through other stimuli that used to be external physical factors. Now it's stress and in social interactions with other human beings in other situations. And so uh, there's all these flags going thrown up in certain situations where you feel attacked in a different kind of way, and you have that same response. And your frontal lobe is there to say, you can be measured here. You don't need to run or fight this person. You need to now confront that, but handle it stably and through conversation and other ways. You can't react the way that cavemen could. So
Yeah.
this film to me talks a lot about that, but in the way where what you were just saying, this need to be socially PC or whatever, for lack of a better word, like amicable and not alarm bells. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to be rude.
Yeah.
You don't want to put someone off by reacting poorly to them just, being whatever. Like, you don't want to be the jerk. Like, this is your body is trying to tell you something, but your social awareness and understanding is saying no. You're explaining away actual red flags, and
Right.
this film is just going to do this repeatedly and repeatedly. And I think that what you said, yeah, there's a good commentary there. The allegory or the fable of, don't become this person. Like, listen to yourself. Do
Right.
take the social cues and extract yourself from these situations. It's not always um it's innocuous and it's a bad thing. So I like that aspect of it. I think that's also a strong thing, that's always there, and that's like you're questioning it because there's so many things. Like, you could see it both ways. Like, yeah, it could have been fine. Like, Patrick and Karen do explain away a lot of the things that come up as issues,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and you could kind of see it. But there's so much there where it's like, no, this is just a hard no.
Yeah.
Leave, run, get out.
Well,
But the other thing that explains it for me, when I'm more willing to watch it with my heart, is that they do a good job with Bjorn as being presented in a very delicate state.
yes.
It starts early on when they're at the original vacation. It's not as if they're going over the top. He's a beta cuckold husband,
Yeah.
but it has those vibes and those tones. He's shown
Right.
in an inferior or sensitive state early on and through the movie, where
Yeah.
he has weakness and insecurities, where he's not at his primal top
Right.
person right now
Yeah.
that he needs to be to match this aggressor.
To
And
match,
so,
but
like, He's
and
crying at the thing they're
yeah,
singing,
and
he's and then he breaks down and has them like he's questioning his life. It just seems so
yeah,
ordinary and boring. He's depressed.
yeah,
And I think that I'm glad that the film does that because it makes it you're more willing to suspend disbelief when you're like, I would never let that happen. Like, think about when you've been down and then someone says something shitty to you, you don't fight back. You just take it because you don't have the energy or the wherewithal to stand up for yourself. Because you're like, yeah, I am a piece of shit. Fuck, whatever. You
yeah.
know?
Yeah,
It's that
no,
kind
no
of feeling. And
yeah, they
so it
definitely,
works.
yeah, they definitely put Louise in the position of power over Bjorn through through the whole movie, um, and yeah, and Patrick owns him. Patrick owns Bjorn, especially when he takes him out to to the the pool, right?
Hmm.
um, and they have their primal screaming moment where
Yeah.
Patrick's like, "Come, let's do this. This will help," you know.
Their Garden State moment.
Yeah, their Garden State moment. Um, so Bjorn, even though because Louise is the one who has is the one complaining,
Yeah, whenever they have the
right?
confrontation, Louise is the one willing to speak up and say, "Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, you're kind of a dick for forcing me to eat meat so much.
yeah,
That
and
wasn't cool.
right, and
You
Bjorn, yes.
drinking and driving, all of
So
these things." Like she's speaking up, and Bjorn's just like, "I guess everything was okay."
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry my wife didn't like whatever, like not like
Right.
not like defending her for himself, like you can't talk to my wife that way, which is what he should be saying, right?
Hmm.
But no, he's like, my wife doesn't really like it here, and we have to go. I so they leave the house twice, right? They leave and come back, and then they leave
Yeah, the
and
first
come
time they could have
back.
left in this. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, but yeah, but the second time it was sort of like the jig was up at that point.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so I think so, but I think the way it's built, it is good, and I do like the conclusion in being not positive, and it being a cautionary tale that ends in sadness
Oh
and
yeah, a terrible ending.
heartbreaking.
Right.
Ugh,
So,
yeah, you don't
all
feel
right.
good at all.
So let's run the audience through the climax here. So this antagonist couple, Patrick and Karen, have a mute boy named Abel, who has had his tongue removed. Patrick explains it as
It's a birth
a
defect, yeah.
birth defect, born without a tongue. And then Bjorn and Luis have Agnes. Um,
Their daughter,
so
yeah.
yeah, so as Bjorn figures it out first. He wanders into the garage and he finds this room of photos, family photos, and he finds his family photo there, and he finds another family photo that has little Abel, and the parents are not these two. So at that point, he's like, "Oh fuck, we got to get out of here." It's too late. He gets back to the house. Abel's dead, face down in a pool.
Hmm.
And now you're like, "Oh shit. Okay, well now they're after the family. What's gonna happen?"
Yeah.
Um, they get in the car, they go,
Out of gas
out of
after a couple
gas.
miles.
Yep, out of gas. Um, so they
He
take
leaves the car to go to another house to get for help.
right.
When he comes back, they're gone,
They're gone.
and Patrick and Louise are there, and they're in the car, and they're making up an excuse to still keep the wife and the daughter, Louise and Agnes, in the
Yeah,
dark. And he tells them, "Get in the car. We're
yeah,
going back."
yeah,
And so they have to go back.
yep. So what we have is, a van shows up with a random third person, and they grab Agnes, and they've got this little, looks like an eyelash curler, and it clips her tongue right off, and then she gets taken in the van and driven off, and
Yeah.
then Bjorn and Luis are standing there scared in the dark. Patrick makes them strip and walk, and this is the same spot that they had the primal scream. This is with the pool of water,
Hmm.
and they walk away, and then Patrick and Karen just stone them to death with these big
Yeah.
rocks, and then they don't hide the bodies. It's just like it shows the time pass to like the next day, and they're there out in the sun, and then Patrick and Karen are driving with Agnes in the back seat, and they drive to Bjorn and Louise's house, and now they're going to do this thing all over again with this new child that is now born without a tongue. Um, and so yeah, you get that that super down ending, the Stephen
Mhm.
King ending, if you will.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of imagery in, you know, the son being named Abel, the stoning. There's a lot of like referential or homage to biblical events. But it's tragic, and a lot of people that are willing to go down the path of just watching it without questioning and the disbelief and just letting it go, like it's very impactful, and a lot of people were moved, and this is still a very highly rated critically
Yeah,
film, but the audiences for the most part are very mixed and in the middle, very
yeah,
neutral with it, to where you got an even mix of good and bad, because maybe it's less, you're not going to have someone looking at it to view it critically. These are just
yeah.
general reactions, and so
Yeah,
it's
I
mixed.
I think overall it's about a 6.5, which is, yeah, I mean, between you and me, kind of right where it landed.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
So what are some of the big bad things? So that is a good thing. Like
yeah.
those are the good things about the film, the
So
good
yeah,
things to
the
enjoy.
the
It is a
ending,
good
yeah.
ride, and it is heart-wrenching. I will never watch it again,
Well, I won't
but
watch it again.
I'm glad to have seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a
All
good
right.
it was a good bad experience.
So the bad things. I mean, all right. He says, Patrick says, I got to show you my pool. And now there's a couple things about that. First, Abel was dead face down in this pool, but it wasn't really a pool. It was more like a hot tub or something. It was not a
Yeah,
big,
it was.
or maybe it was like a koi pond. It was like a decorative, like 2 feet of water. I
No,
can't
no,
really
no. It was
tell what
like
it
one of
was.
those. It was like one of those bullshit Intex ones where it's
Yeah,
got like the walls, and you have to have the angled brackets to. It's like a inflatable tub for adults, more or less. Because I
right.
think they use it, with a heater even.
And then you got the little pool surrounded by rocks with the big wall, which is where they did the primal scream and also where the movie ended. But then they didn't like drag the bodies into the water to like hide them or
I
anything.
know
They
you
just left
don't
them out.
see it, but
So
you
that was
could
kind of
believe that
weird.
that's what
Er,
they did.
I know. But I'd probably show it to us since he said I should show you my pool. Now, this is what I think he meant. Um, for no reason in the last scene, um, it's Patrick, I believe, is swimming in Bjorn and Louise's pool at their house. It's like one of the
Hmm.
last frames before it goes. I think it cuts to Agnes just like sitting there looking sad in silence, and
Yeah,
that's when we get the credits.
yeah.
I think Patrick was talking about Bjorn's own pool to Bjorn. A little foreshadowing, because
I
we
see.
know Bjorn has a pool from before they went on this vacation, and we know that Patrick doesn't have a pool because we never see them swimming. Anyway, I thought that was a cool twist, but also like not very obvious. I don't know.
Possibly. I don't know if
Possibly.
that's all there, but
Yeah.
either way.
Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
possibly. Maybe you're just looking to find more to weight to it because it is light in some kind of ways, and you
it
want to
just
have more connection for more meaning.
it just felt like when he said that line that it was actually important, and that I and
Well,
that
yeah, but I mean, I think it
it
also could just be that he wanted to say he had a pool because this was like early on when they first got there or something,
right.
and so maybe he just wanted to. It's just like the same idea with when he says he's a doctor,
Yeah.
that he wants to present himself as, you can trust me, I'm very well off, things are fine.
Yeah.
And so if you say you have a pool, if you say you're a doctor, people are like, I'm more comfortable. A
Right, right.
doctor with a pool would never do anything wrong. And then you
Yeah.
find out, yeah, the pool is actually a shitty little garage inflatable thing that is not really much of a pool. It's sort of
Yeah.
a kiddie pool. It's a bathtub type thing. It's a pond,
Sure.
whatever. I mean, it is a real quote unquote pool. It's just more like a spa, I would say, or a hot tub type situation. At any
Sure.
rate, so gosh, yeah. I mean, you do not go back for that fucking rabbit. For
No.
me, that's where it was like, no,
No.
I will listen to that kid. After seeing my kid get taken into their bed nude, and I'm already in the car, I'm not going back for that
Not
fucking
going
stuffed
back.
animal.
Yeah, you don't go back for the rabbit.
And
Um,
then you find out the rabbit was under the seat the whole fucking time.
oh yeah.
You don't look through the car thoroughly before going back.
Before going back, yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
guys. Like,
The,
I'm
so
just
so
saying, if you want to be negative and you want to pull
yeah.
yourself out, that's
Yeah.
another huge thing.
Yeah. So for me it comes down to like the bad stuff is like that decision. Um, Her even eating the meat in the beginning, like she's a
Yeah,
vegetarian, like throw that shit in his face. Leave right there. Like start an argument. I don't know. The ending, the strip and they strip and then and the stoning. I get that this is where that like the point of the story culminates, and you kind of have to do it this way to tell your story. But it's like they didn't run, they didn't fight,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'll tell you like they didn't
Well,
even
they're so
they,
beaten and
but
their thinking is like that they're so beaten and broken. Their daughter was just stolen from them,
when
and
she was taken, they didn't fight. They didn't fight
I know they didn't like.
and get beaten down. Like if they fought and got
Well, and
beaten
that's the thing.
down,
Yes, I know, and that's what's so frustrating because like there's no gun, there's no knife,
yeah,
like
it's just his
just
pure
the
force of
scissors from
will.
cutting the tongue out.
Yeah. And Karen is holding the scissors the whole time. So
Yeah,
like you just well, why is Bjorn not attacking Karen?
I know.
I
Yeah, they're all fair, and obviously a lot of people feel that way. I know I've seen many people that are mixed where it's just
yeah.
like it's too preposterous. You cannot tell me that this is realistic. But until you're in a situation like that, you kind of don't know. You want to say
Yeah.
that. You would like to say like, yeah, it's fucking crazy, but
Yeah.
maybe it's not.
Well, I mean there's a moment where you realize that you're going to die if you sit there and do nothing.
I know.
And you
Yeah.
might die if you fight back. So why not fight? So
But you'll definitely die if you just don't do anything, right?
yeah, yeah.
Uh the room with all of the trophy photographs and Polaroids on the wall, like
Yeah.
okay, like that's very tropey, very unrealistic serial killer behavior
Right.
that
They
everyone
didn't
seems to think that they
yeah.
do.
They're going to go back there and grab all those photos and bring them to the new house because their pattern is to
Yeah. Yeah.
right
Yeah, to continue to to live
to
into the
take the
new
new
the
house.
family
So
that
if they
they're
take the new house, they got
yeah,
to bring those photos. That doesn't make any sense. Come
yeah.
on, maybe a scrapbook.
Uh yeah, something to hide it in. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously ways to watch and to experience that will take you out of it. But it doesn't take away from the fact that the leads are performing the roles very well. It is shot very well. It aids because, like I said in the review, like it being foreign, I think adds to the allure of this uncomfortable environment that we are
Sure.
in.
Yeah,
We don't
when
really
they go to the
understand.
Roadhouse for dinner, they go to the Roadhouse for dinner.
Right.
That scene was very not American. It was very European.
Right.
Like watching that scene is very like okay, okay, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and he tricks him into paying for dinner, which is also. And then the car ride home, he's drunk and he's
He's
blasting
drunk. He's
music, and the
blasting
wife
the
doesn't
music.
want to, and he's still fucking with her the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of difficult scenes, and so
And yeah, like very cringeworthy. And it's like Bjorn is the one
I know.
who this falls on because you you say like you don't talk to my wife that way. Like you don't even there's not even an argument. You just say that. Like that's just a thing that you
Yeah,
say, right? Like let alone like shoving meat in her
yeah,
face and cranking up the
yeah.
music, like
Fucking Will Smith gets it.
yeah. Will Smith gets it. Like wrong venue, Will Smith. But if Chris Rock made that joke outside, on the street, yeah, you slap the shit out of him.
Yeah, that's why it couldn't have been Will and Jada in this movie. It had to be Bjorn and Louise.
That's right. That's right.
It would
It's
have been a different story for
still too
Patrick and Karen.
still too soon. Oh yeah, that's true. If Will Smith played Bjorn, Patrick would there
Yeah,
wouldn't have been a movie. It would have been 30 minutes
yeah.
long.
Welcome to Earth.
Would have been an episode of Fresh Prince. All right.
Did you want to read a couple of the review headlines?
Yeah, why not? Let me bring those back up over here.
Yeah, we're getting back to the wrap
All
up. So
right.
yeah, Speak No Evil has an 83% fresh on
Yeah,
Rotten Tomatoes
it's
with the
very
critically.
very fresh. And with this
Audience 59%.
59, and on IMDb it's a 6.6. So yeah, it looks pretty above average. I wouldn't call it great. But here we go. This is some certified fresh critic headlines. A movie that will undoubtedly ruin your evening, as intended. So like even the people who like this movie really don't have anything good to say about it, right? Like it's a it's a good movie, but like Speak No Evil is incredibly effective, a comedy of errors played with such intensity that it's almost difficult to sit through, but its ending undoes some of that tension.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Again, like the way that things go through, it's sort of like no, you wouldn't just walk quietly into your demise and then let yourself get stoned to death.
All right, yes, true. Okay, so here's a couple stinkers. A monotonous and underwhelming psychological thriller that has very little to say about evil or human nature. I completely disagree with this review.
Yeah, that's
Um,
not accurate.
yeah,
It does very much communicate all these social graces and things that shouldn't be happening that happen because we want to be the nice guy or don't want to advocate for ourselves or for others. Like it's I think it does all of that very well.
all right, here we go. Overall, the film is reasonably scary and the acting is superb, but the overall tone and outcome of the film leave much to be desired. Even when things go horribly wrong, the lead up should at least feel a little satisfying.
Well, again, it's ultimately, do you want a positive or do you want a negative outcome? Like, and I think that the director wanted from I listened to this interview. This kind of a film is not common in Danish cinema.
Right.
They don't tell these kinds of stories, so he
Sure.
wanted to tell a difficult story, and I think it ending not good for our protagonists is much more impactful than if they have a pleasant resolution and somehow get away and live
Yeah.
to the rest of their days in peace.
No, it's
It's
true.
That's not always realistic. Sometimes stories end in tragedy, and that's
No,
fair.
it's very true. If I put myself into a mindset where they got away, I think this movie gets worse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
like a 4 or a 3, like it becomes a pointless piece of garbage if they don't get caught and lose and end it the way they did.
Yeah, I think for me the only what would have made it just so a bit more willing to go along with everything that happened is just have more of a presence of a threat of disobedience. What would happen if there were disobedience? Like have some sort of a weapon or some sort of a situation positioning of objects and such that there is no escape. You have to comply because if you tried to fight or escape, something would happen. Like, have a different kind of weapon or something else there just to kind of keep it. I'm not saying shoot people, but I'm saying have something else there other than just, Patrick says it. Why Bjorn asks him
Yeah.
why you're doing this, and he says because you let me.
Because you let me. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like that was a very like
It's
this is
cold and like
yeah.
it's a little bit silly, but and you get it, but like have a little bit something else there to give them more agency as characters where they didn't have much choice.
Yeah.
Here we still think that they had choice and they just let it happen.
But that
But
was
if
the
you have
point.
something else there, it helps. Right. I
Yeah, I
know.
mean that
Yeah.
was the point. Okay. All right. Speak No Evil. I gave it a 6.
Yeah. I landed at a 7.
And for episode 9 of the podcast for the recently deceased, I'm Nate Roberts.
I'm Rodney Godek. Take care.
And we'll see you next week.